Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Good News on Good View. It is November 1st, 2025, and of course, I'm here with my man Lee Cantor, and we're going to jump right into it because we got a lot to discuss. It's election time, and New York's got a very big decision to make, and
Virginia too.
Virginia too. Yeah. It's that time of year.
Yeah.
First, I want to say your vote matters, because a lot of people think that what. My little vote doesn't matter. So that's something that you guys got to understand. We live in a country where our voice matters.
I mean, I think you can just look back a year ago when Donald Trump was elected. That was only a year ago. Can you believe that?
Absolutely not.
I mean, it's been a whirlwind.
Yeah.
And so you can see, it's mattered, that he was elected over Kamala Harris. Whether you're for or against it, it doesn't matter. Your vote matters. So
right.
vote.
Vote. And because there's a lot of countries that don't have that privilege. So,
like Russia.
Right.
Let's go down.
So there's a list. So
China.
This is we are very, very
Venezuela.
blessed. You can just keep going. But we are very, very blessed to be in a country where our vote matters. And so don't let anybody or anything talk you out of your vote. It does matter.
Yeah.
So 24 years ago, 25 years ago, 24 years ago, we had a very tragic season. 9/11 happens. I know that we're in a nation of freedom. I know that we're in a nation of diversity. I know that we're in a nation where, different belief systems are welcome here. However, we have to be a nation that's vigilant about protecting our citizens. And one of my concerns, more than anything, is what you brought up at Jerusalem Prayer Breakfast, is about America forgetting too soon.
Yeah.
Now I do know that there's a lot of emotions running high about, is this a Christian nation or not? How dangerous is the Islamic faith? All of these things are legitimate conversations, but we're faced with a real reality where we could possibly see someone who is vocal about their Muslim faith, who stands by their Muslim faith, and kind of changed the narrative on what even happened on 9/11 and took more of a position of Islamophobia. How do you say it? Islamophobia. And with that 25-year span, hearing someone be vocal about that, you could absolutely say, oh, yeah, we need to not put all Muslims in the same category. We need to not. But what I would say is that is true, but we have to also remember, though. Does that make sense? Yeah. It's not just like, oh yeah, we want to be sensitive to other religions and things like that. Other religions do have a right to run the nation, this and that. And like I said, vote. However, there is a reality where we also can't forget when my dad used to say, when people show you who they are, believe them.
Yeah, well, it is amazing. 24 years, a lot has changed, and you can't imagine after 9/11 that there would be people on the streets of New York City, shouting from the river to the sea, and free Palestine, after these Al-Qaeda operatives stage and plan this mass destruction and mass murder in the United States. It's the biggest ever external attack on the United States in the history of the United States. I mean, other than obviously the Revolutionary War.
Yeah.
But I mean, you can't imagine that in 24 years there'd be that reversal in New York City,
right,
where it happened. And he, Mamdani, who is a democratic socialist, and we can look at what their platform says, and we should, but he's Muslim. He stood up in front of a Muslim mosque, I think in Brooklyn or somewhere in New York, and he was talking about how hard it was for his relatives after 9/11 to walk around, with hijab, I think it's called, and that they were experienced prejudice, and I'm like, yeah, I can imagine that's true because we just were attacked by Muslim terrorists who were funded by Al Qaeda in Afghanistan, and that unleashed the whole war in Afghanistan. And so, yeah, I can imagine they probably were afraid walking around and people projected their hate onto them. But that certainly isn't, the condition 24 years later right now.
Right. Well, what this shows me more than anything is the power of misinformation. You know what I mean? Because within that 24 years, there's been a lot of conspiracies. And this is the downside, I think, of the internet and the amount of information the data that we can collect. Because if you don't follow through, it's easy to get caught up on a fragment. And then you mix that in with what America stands for and the liberties. And we invite all people. But it's like you still have to be true to the core of what people believe, right? Mm-hmm. So if someone said, hey, Duke, you sound like Islamophobia. You sound like you have that because you're afraid of a Muslim running New York or Virginia or anywhere in the country. And I would say, no, it's not that I'm afraid of the Muslim. I'm afraid, my concern is the core beliefs of the Quran.
So I'm a little bit different about this because, in these 24 years, what has happened is they've been able to, because of this thing called intersectionality, mm-hmm. which means the grievance of the Palestinians mm-hmm. and, the Muslim Palestinians. So now they've put the layer of religion on it, has intersected with the socialists. He's a democratic socialist who I'm going to have to pull up the platform of the Democratic Socialists, but so it's an anti-capitalist, anti-Jewish, anti-Semitic, platform, and it's gripped the people, the young people especially of New York City, with a social contagion. It's like a disease where it's become contagious, where he looks like he's going to win. And he said if he wins, if Netanyahu comes to New York, he's going to arrest him. He's going to have New York City divest from any investments in Israel. He's going to tax the ultra wealthy, and listen, ladies and gentlemen, there's 1 million Jewish people who live in New York City. Mm. It's the largest, congregation of Jewish people outside of Israel anywhere in the world. And he's talking about Islamophobia when he has, himself espoused from the river to the sea, and he didn't apologize he didn't condemn the Hamas attack, and he went along with this narrative that it was Israeli genocide when they held hostages. As soon as they let the hostages go, what happened?
Right.
The war stopped.
You know what else is interesting is that with the socialism part, that intersectionism that they did, one of the things is that they are partnering through that as a filter system with groups that, according to the Islamic faith, they actually don't align with. Like in other countries, for being a homosexual, especially in Islamic countries, you can be killed for that. And so, but here, because they're able to use it as a platform to gain power, what people are not aware of is that according to what their core belief system is that they have a right to turn on them once they get the power. And so the homosexual community thinks that it's partnering with them. It's like, matter of fact, there's actually footage at a parade where the trans community was with the Muslims, and they said, hey, we're on the same side. And the Muslims said, no, we're not. You know what I mean? And so there's this trance, like you talked about, that I do know what the key word is that the Democratic Party genuinely loves to use, and I'm not bashing anyone, this is just a fact, is free. And that triggers a lot of people when like the free rent, the free this, free that, and they make those big promises.
Yes. So Democratic Socialists of America will put the website up on the show, but this is their platform. It says Medicare for all, so universal health care with no premiums, copays, or deductibles. How are we going to afford that, ladies and gentlemen? Guarantees for reproductive and gender-affirming care. In the war on drugs, treat drug addiction as a health issue, not a criminal one. Fight mass incarceration and police brutality. Abolish mandatory minimums and cash bail and demilitarize police department. College for all. Make all public higher education tuition free with no out-of-pocket costs for room and board, and cancel all student loan debt. Housing for all. Establish universal rent control and the guaranteed right to counsel for all tenants. Public investment in building quality, multi-income social housing. Support working families. Expansive paid family leave for all workers and free public universal child care and pre-K. An economy for the working class. 32-hour work week with no reduction pay or benefits. Union power, protect all workers' rights to strike and form a union. Make it easier for workers to join unions and invest in the National Labor Relations Board. Green New Deal, tax the rich. Working class foreign policy, free Palestine, in the U.S. war machine, freedom of movement, which allows workers to freely migrate between countries to seek employment without restrictive immigration controls. No more economic warfare. I mean, can you? This is a radical platform for the United States, and this guy's going to probably be mayor of New York City, the richest, most powerful city in the country. Wake up, America, because this is the soft underbelly of the young people. He's pitching these ideas to the young people, and it's a social contagion.
Yeah, and here's the thing is that when hearing you read it the way you did, it's just like, it sounds great. You know what I mean? And that's the problem, is it sounds great for a person that has no idea the level of freedom you're giving up.
Who's going to pay for that?
Right. That's exactly right. And that is the part that you where the trick is. It's like, oh yeah, if we're going to tax the rich, you know what the rich are going to do? They're going to have to, they're going to have to find a way to create that income, which you could say, well, that means more jobs. No, what it means is they're going to cut back jobs. You're not motivating people
Especially
to create
with AI now.
Exactly. What you're going to do is end up replacing humans, because that's what they're going to lean on technology. Robots. Because they can afford to lean on technology. They're already doing it. They're already fully run restaurants completely run by machines. So what you're talking about is putting the rich in a position to create ways to protect their
wealth. And it doesn't work.
It just doesn't.
The bottom line is socialism does not work. It's failed in every country it's tried. It ends up being an excuse for the people in power to basically, be corrupt and to line their pockets with money and to use the power for their agenda. And you have to wonder what their agenda is. Well, let's just look, okay? So we got Iran. We know what Iran's agenda is. But let's talk about Africa, okay? Because you did this show this week about Nigeria.
Right.
I just read in the newspaper today that in Mali, which is in Western Africa, Al-Qaeda has the capital of the country blockaded, and it looks like the country is going to fall to Al-Qaeda. So Al-Qaeda is going to rule Mali, and they're moving in on all that part of Africa. So you have to say, well, is this about Islamic religion, or Islamic religion really a camouflage for economic and political power and control.
Yeah.
Or is it both?
It's both. It's
Is it
both.
both?
Because one of the things is that the Quran demands that they take territory, the demands that they take land, the demands that they go into a country where there are no Muslims, and then they take the territory. So this is a demand of the Quran, and it shows you the devotion. Most people don't even realize that the Islamic faith is only 1,600 years old, and in that 1,600 years, they've actually taken more land and territory than the Romans ever did, and that's 270 million people who have died, as they took those territories since, and that was just from the birth to the 1960s. So so in 1,600 years, 270 million people have been killed, and they took more territory than the Romans ever did.
Now in Nigeria,
right,
and now in Mali, now in Syria. So this Al Qaeda, now he says he's not with Al Qaeda anymore, but the guy who was supported by Turkey came and threw Assad out this year. What have they done? They've killed the Druze. Mm-hmm. They've gone after the what are they called? Is it Alawites?
Oh, yeah.
But they go after their own people and the Kurds. I was reading how in the area of north, I think east Syria, where the United States was sort of helped patrol things, and now we're withdrawing our troops, but it was a Kurdish area, that now the people are going back to Al Qaeda or ISIS or whatever they're called now. It is all Islamic, jihad. I mean, listen, they pay their martyrs, and they think their martyrs are going to go to heaven.
And here's the thing is that Americans, you have to understand the trophy that America really represents. This is the world's largest Christian nation.
In New York City.
Yes. And so it's just like, what a reward for them to say, so here's where I tell people, you can never neglect the power of influence and inspiration. So one thing that happens in America is that people come here with their different beliefs all over the world, but our comfort zones cause everybody to kind of calm down a little bit, because it's like, I don't want to. Why would I want jihad in America when we have this? We have all these freedoms and liberties, and so that kind of makes things a little docile in a sense when it comes to religious beliefs. Even in Christianity, the devotion is kind of distracted or dissolved by many of the comforts that American culture offers. However, with the Islamic faith, with the Muslims particularly, because the core of their faith is about taking territory, they have an immune system to things like the temptations of the culture. Like, they're really devoted to their belief system, right? They're really devoted in a lot of cases. So what happens is when you start seeing people rise up, like the mayor, how do you say his name again? I always mess his name up. Mondami. When you see someone rise up, that's inspiration. That's inspiration where they go, oh, wow, now you have people who are Muslims who have been raised here. You have the black Muslims. They're going to say, wow, we really are going to get from under Christian oppression. We can actually change this nation to, becoming a more Muslim-driven nation. Like, that's that's the danger, is what happens when other people get influenced, inspired, and they too return to that devotion of the Quran. And then it becomes normalized. We're seeing a lot of Christians actually convert from Christianity, and these are white Christians converting from Christianity into the Islamic faith.
And the thing is, right, is the whole experiment in the United States was to separate political power and religion, mm-hmm. and to have it be not just a free market of capitalism and economy, but a free marketplace of ideas. But this conflating, bringing together, this Islamophobia, he's calling it now, with these democratic socialists, anti-capitalist, anti-rich, Green New Deal, all these liberal left ideas, is really dangerous for the United States, because it appeals to young people.
Right.
I mean, really, young people go, yeah, the old rich white people, they got all the money and power.
Yeah.
Let's take it from them. It's just the next revolutionary
And you know
idea.
what's interesting is that we've seen this before, actually, in the civil rights movement, where it was a lot of the liberals, young teenagers, the hippie movement, all that. Those guys, they actually kind of partnered with the black community, like, yeah, it's these people that, you know, the rich white man is doing this to you guys. And then what ended up happening? They ended up bringing in abortion. What ended up happening was the annihilation of, you know, 17.3 million black babies, when, you know, it's just like, whoa. And then not only that, including just making abortion legal, when it was really designed to, it was one of the most passive forms of oppression that took place. And that came from Margaret Sanger, who was the head of the female KKK. So these liberal groups have no idea the portals to madness that they open up. You know what I mean? That when they partner, when they use these free thinking concepts and use that to tempt oppressed people into agreeing with them.
Yeah, when, you know, I was reading an article about European leaders looking at the election in New York City and how worried they are about it.
Right.
I mean, because they have large, you know, Muslim populations from, you know, the Middle East and from, I don't know, all the countries. I mean, obviously Afghanistan, Syria, all these immigrants. But, you know, I really think that in order for us to guard our freedom and, you know, believe me, I am not condemning, I mean, I am not condoning or anything about, quote, Islamophobia. I think people are entitled to their religious practices, but what they're not entitled to is to impose their religious beliefs on other people in the United States. They are not entitled to do that because we have freedom of religion and we have against the establishment of religion. So if he gets in there as mayor of New York City and uses his political power to have some religious agenda against Israel, boycott, divest, sanction, or to arrest, you know, Netanyahu in the United States, I mean, we're going down a dangerous path there.
Right. And so one of the things that I've noticed that even places like Texas, where they've allowed a certain community to have Sharia law there, to practice Sharia law there.
Texas?
Yeah, in Texas, of all places. And when I saw that, I was like, wow. And one of the things that happened is they're like, hey, in this particular community, they started telling the store owners what they could sell in their stores. You know what I mean? Like no pork products and things like that. Like it was amazing to see how it directly goes. They're using their religious beliefs to actually, try to tear down capitalism and people's right to sell whatever they want and
buy bacon.
To buy bacon.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's anti-American.
To buy bacon. We fight for the right to buy bacon. You know, but seriously, who would ever thought that that's going to turn into an issue? And to the females that are saying, you know, that they want this, it's like you have no idea what you're really asking for, because one of the things is that, again, I hate to say it, but America, because of our comfort zones, it's a real thing. We tend to water down faiths that genuinely come from other countries. Like, you know, Christianity in other countries are way more devoted than a lot of the Christians here in America, because comfort does that. Comfort makes you put your guard down. So once the international Muslim community sees us inviting that, you're talking about they're going to be pumped up. You're saying you're going to see influence, inspiration on a whole nother level, especially through things like TikTok. There's the increase of Muslims that are converting Christians just like atheists are is amazing. And the number one reason why is because they know the Bible and they know the Quran better than most Christians. This is one of the if you parents out there, if you want to know why your children are turning to atheism, turning to this liberal thinking, is a lot of it is because they're not teaching the Bible at home, and our churches are not actually discipling anymore. And so when I look at this happening, and a lot of people give me a hard time about this, but I always see this as a responsibility of actually the church to educate, to empower, to be in our communities more. The more love that we as the people of God show, then it's just like, why would I want to give this up? What we're actually witnessing here is people are saying, hey, the politics isn't working in America. The churches aren't working in America. Maybe we should try something. Maybe it's someone else's turn to take over America. And that's what a lot of young people are saying. Because that's exactly what's happening. And so this, if you care at all about the future of this country, you can't say, well, I've done my part. I'm 40 years old or 50 years old, and we don't have to do it anymore. Like let the next generation just have it. No, it's important for us to say, hey, we care about the future of our young people, and if you care at all about whether they're going to be free or in bondage, our grandchildren, are they going to be free or in bondage? That's the real question. And I'm not just talking about bondage from Islam. I'm talking about poverty. Yeah. I'm talking about we've got to do a better job at teaching financial education. We've got to do a better job at showing people that there are no excuses in America and that capitalism works.
Well, Duke, we're coming up on our 250th anniversary as a country in 2026, and I guess the question I'll call on the American people is, are we going to defend the republic, the values of the republic that we inherited? We were blessed to be born into a land of freedom with the right to pursue, the liberty to pursue
wealth.
Not just wealth, but
legacy.
I'm blanking on what the Constitution says. The liberty to pursue our freedom and our right to self-determine and to vote. And, what I'm just saying is, that this whole democratic socialist thing and this thinking that we can afford all of these, free for everyone, 32-hour work week, free Medicare, and tax the rich, and that capitalism is not going to work. That is not what our ancestors came to America. They came here to reward hard work, and that people got to choose. Okay. Yeah. And the people who invested and built something, they got to keep more of it. But, this whole redistribution of income and trying to, make everyone have equity. No, we inherited equality. It was never an experiment to achieve equity, because we're supposed to have equal rights. But what we choose to do with those rights and how we spend our time and how disciplined we are in our education, how we spend our money, the outcomes aren't the same.
That's why you don't want to punish people for making good decisions.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I choose to use the format of someone who is dedicated to eating right, going to the gym, and working right. So when they look like they're 25 at the age of 60,
You're talking about me?
Yeah, I am. You know what I mean? But what ends up happening is that they get the benefits of that. They get the health benefits. Their heart likes them. Their body's happy with the decisions that they made because they chose to put the right food in their body. No matter how expensive it was, they didn't make excuses. They just committed to the bigger picture, which was their health. Well, guess what, folks? The decisions that we make, America's been a place where if you make good decisions, you actually do get the reward for that. You do get to benefit. You can make as much money as you want to in this country. No one can tell you what to do with it. You shouldn't be punished for making good decisions.
Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That's what I could remember. Wow, that's bad. I couldn't remember. I take it for granted. But, this is what we inherited. Can you imagine living in Russia? I mean, really. Can you imagine living in China with a police state that's looking at everything? We are so privileged. But with the privilege comes responsibility. Mm-hmm. And the responsibility is to think for yourself and to cast your vote for values that, number one, you think are good for you, but number two, you think are good for your children and are consistent with the values that we inherited and that our ancestors in this country fought for and stood up for and defended. So your vote matters, and think about what the consequences of your vote might mean if you're voting in New York City or in Virginia. You know, we have an election. We live in Virginia. Duke and I, we're here in Chesapeake, Virginia, and we have an election for governor.
Yep.
And we have a choice, and, you know, we need to vote, and we need to be educated about who we're voting for and why we're voting for it, and, you know, not take it for granted that we have that.
God bless you guys. See you next week.